This Jocks 94.5 podcast is brought to you by Millennium Satellite and Video. Log on to msbnow.com. TV excellence everywhere. That's Millennium. McElroy and Cubelic in the morning starts now.
All right, welcome in. McElroy and Cubelic in the morning. It is 7 a.m. Wednesday, August 13th. Glad you're with us. The Greg McElroy speaking tour continues today in Atlanta. G-Mac, who are you speaking to today?
Today, speaking with a good group here in Atlanta, Morgan Stanley. A little college football preview at 11 o'clock Eastern time. So should be a good time, but we got 3 hours to fill it up here before we get on to some business after the show.
A lot of speaking tours happening for McElroy here in this off season. So kind of making the rounds before the season begins when it becomes very difficult to get anything like that done. But a lot of college football that we want to get to today. We mentioned a lot about Ty Simpson being announced as the starting quarterback yesterday, but the AP poll had been released. And even though we had Ralph Russo on to discuss it, we didn't spend too much time just kind of talking about where the teams were and who we liked in certain spots and maybe what we didn't like in certain spots. Let's go back through just a little bit of where the AP poll is, what we like, what we don't like, maybe what we think is accurate, because there is relevance for this AP poll. People can say that they're meaningless, and I understand that part, but there's relevance historically with what it is, what it's been, and just different people's opinions on teams. The first thing that sticks out, if you look at the parentheses beside the first 7 teams, there will be numbers next to those teams' names. That means they received a first-place vote, or at least 6 of the first 7 teams. That's the most since 2003, I believe. And that doesn't happen often. Does that kind of give you an indicator, following up what we've thought for a while this offseason, that this thing might be a lot more wide open than a lot of people are discussing?
It's absolutely wide open. And frankly, the teams that aren't getting enough love, like the ones you and I have discussed for how many months now, Penn State and Clemson, I mean, they're getting a whole lot less love than Texas is getting. And they frankly have a lot fewer questions than Texas. Not like Texas has a ridiculous amount of questions, but at least we know what we're getting with Cade Klubnik and Drew Aller. I'm super bullish on Arch, but I've never seen him be the down-in, down-out starter against top-tier competition. I look at a team like Ohio State. I mean, right now, Ohio State's quarterback battle is very much up in the air, and it's not a guarantee that it's the 5-star Julian Sayin. Lincoln Kienholz is supposedly hanging in there and might actually have a little bit more of a hold on the job than most people originally thought going into the competition. So, like, there are places that we're now inserting into the national championship picture with the first place vote that don't even know who their starting quarterback's going to be. That to me is a tough spot, especially when compared against guys that have started for 3 years at both Clemson and Penn State.
I think it's super fair. And it feels like we mentioned this a couple months ago before SEC Media Days, that certain teams' potential flaws or concerns were just not being discussed, plain and simple. And other teams were being highlighted to the point that it was the only thing that you could really feel like people were, I guess, judging them by, grading them by. But when you go through this AP poll, Texas number 1. I will say this, and you had your top 25 that you released on your podcast this past week. You did not have Texas number 1. I would not have Texas number 1. Penn State did come in at 2, Ohio State 3, Clemson 4, Georgia 1. You spent a little time yesterday saying the first things that stuck out, Ohio State shouldn't be at 3, Texas shouldn't be at 1. I think you and I, maybe in different order, would probably both have Penn State and Clemson number 1. What was your order of the top 5 when you released yours late last week?
I did Clemson 1, Penn State 2. I think Clemson, I trust them a little more. You know what I mean? Like I've seen them punch up in the last 8 or 9 years. I haven't always seen Penn State punch up. And I also think the gauntlet, quote unquote, that Clemson will have to run to a potential ACC title is not nearly as challenging as the gauntlet that Penn State might have to run. Penn State still has to play Oregon. They still have to play Ohio State. And based on the past, it's not likely they win either one of those 2 games. Now, I think this year's roster is absolutely more capable of being able to go toe-to-toe with those two teams. I think their roster is better than Ohio State's and Penn State's based on known commodity, or Ohio State's and Oregon's based on known commodities. But they still got to go do it, and that has not always been a game that they've played their very best football in. So I think Clemson right now is actually the safer pick to be in the mix at season's end than Penn State, whose roster top to bottom might actually be a bit stronger.
So when we look at these teams towards the top, and it's 2016 actually since this many teams have received first place votes in the preseason poll. There were 7 that year, 6 teams this year. When we look at those, are those the only teams that can win a national championship? Those teams that received the vote would be Texas, Penn State, Ohio State, Clemson, Georgia, Oregon. So if you stop there, you would not include Notre Dame, you would not include Alabama, you would not include LSU. Would you include those 3 in teams? I'm not saying you're picking them, but that could win a national championship.
Yes, I think they absolutely could, for sure. Would not, based on what we know in the preseason, would not have them that high. But we're talking now in a world where you need to be at your best 4 months from now. You know what I mean? The teams that have known players, continuity, cohesiveness from the year before, they might have a little bit of an advantage in week 1, 2, 3, 4. But having an advantage week 1, 2, 3, 4 does nothing for you when talking about winning a national championship. So I think the team that might have the highest ceiling at season's end is the one I might lead to. And I'll give you an example for a team like Oregon. Oregon's going to be outrageously young. Like really, really young. And I think as a result, they're probably going to have a few inconsistencies. But by the time we get to January, assuming they're still alive, could they be playing their best football at that point? I think it's absolutely probable. So while if you tell me right now, hey, where would you rank Oregon? I'd probably have them 7, 8 in that vicinity. But come January, with the youth that's going to be on that roster and the quality reps they're going to get, they could be a very different looking team.
Yeah, I would be with you on that one. What's interesting about that is I saw Joel Klatt yesterday. There was a graphic with the 9 teams that he says can win a national championship, and he would draw the line there. And that would be Texas, Ohio State, Penn State, Georgia, Clemson, Oregon, LSU, Alabama, Notre Dame. So essentially the top 9 of the AP poll because it goes Texas, Penn State, Ohio State, Clemson, Georgia, Notre Dame, Oregon, Alabama, LSU. So that means that he draws the line there. I just want to go through a couple of these other teams because we're saying can, Greg. We're not saying will.
Correct.
We're not saying probably, not saying favorite to. We're just saying can win a national championship. You just give me yes or no, and we'll go down the list here. John, you could chime in on these also if you'd like. Miami.
Yes, they can.
I'd be with you. I would say can win a national championship.
Yeah, I believe so.
Arizona State.
I'm going to say can't, but I don't want to.
Okay. I think they can.
Team-wise, yes. In the way the playoffs structured, no.
Okay. Illinois.
They have to stay healthy.
Sure.
And I just don't know if in 16 games that a lot of these teams are going to have to play, if they have the depth.
Okay, take what you just said and get ready to say it again about 5 more times. Okay. Illinois.
No.
No.
John? I actually think they can. I like them a lot this year.
Oh, boy.
Michigan.
Here we go. No. Too much new on defense.
Correct.
I would say no as well. I don't think they can do it this year. SMU.
No.
I don't think so either.
Same.
Florida.
Yes.
Yeah.
I think so too. Here's a fun one. Oklahoma. Can they is the question, not will they. Can they?
Yes.
The answer is yes.
I think it's absolutely. Texas A&M.
Yes.
Yeah, I think so.
I think they can. My asterisk there would be it's going to need much improved quarterback play than what we've seen, and that would actually probably be my number one reason why I would say that I don't think that they could, but I'm going to lean can. Ole Miss.
Too much new on defense.
Yeah, I don't think so. Not this year.
I just don't think good enough at either line of scrimmage on either side of the ball, so I'm going to say no, they cannot. And here I think is I'll just throw a couple more out. You say because I think all these would be cannot. Kansas State, Indiana, Texas Tech, Tennessee, Boise.
Texas Tech is like the one wild card because they're so new and they've reinforced their talent, but I would still lean no.
Okay. John, any of those that you would say can?
One more time, give me them.
Kansas State, Indiana, Texas Tech, Tennessee.
No.
Those would all be can't for me. Now here's the two fun ones I think are the most fun to discuss. Because I think the first one I'm going to throw at you guys, most people are going to say can't right away. And that is South Carolina. Greg, can South Carolina win a national championship?
They can, but it is entirely dependent on the defense not dropping off whatsoever.
That's
and
right.
Lenore is taking a massive step.
Yeah, it's more thin than it is with some of the other teams that we said can. But it's the correct answer. They absolutely can. That's a team that you look at and say, all they got to do is get in. And then a guy on defense takes over a game, and then the guy on offense takes over a game, and then a game goes their way, and then another one takes over a game, and you win a national championship. It could happen. Now I'm with you. Defense, some new faces need to step up. Some receivers, some new faces need to step up. Your comment about health would glaringly apply to that football team. Similar to a lot of others. John, South Carolina?
Oh, yeah. I definitely think they can.
All right. And here's another one, Greg. Remember, can they? Not will they. Not predicting them to. Can they? Can Iowa State win a national championship?
No.
I think they can.
They don't have the horsepower.
Did they last year?
Yes, their receivers last year were the real deal.
That's what I was wondering. If they had Noel and Higgins coming back, would your answer be different?
I think it would be.
I think that's where I am.
I hate putting that much stock into wide receivers, but they have a very narrow margin. In the event in which the game becomes a bit of a track meet, a la the Big 12 championship last year, I just don't think they can keep up.
Yeah.
Like, you got to have difference makers at wide receiver. We've learned that for years. Receiver has become a premium position, and it doesn't mean they don't have a guy that's solid. I'm sure they have several, but do they have that guy that can take over the game like we saw guys do in the playoff last year? I just have a hard time envisioning that with them, and I hate saying that because I love the program so much. They're one of my favorites, but I just don't see it.
Yeah, I would go with Iowa State exactly where you went with Arizona State, in that I want to say yes, but I don't think I can. I think Rocco Becht is vastly underrated with how we talk about some other quarterbacks, and you and I have kind of laughed at some of the conversation that certain QBs are getting going into the season, and then other people won't say a word about this young man for an entire offseason, and he's going to be a great college quarterback this year. I think he's got a good cast. I think if he had the cast coming back from last year, specifically at receiver, I would probably easily say yes, they could. And lost a little bit on defense too. That's going to be tough to replace. But I just thought it was interesting drawing the line at 9 when we're making all these discussion points about how it's wide open and how we don't have this glaring team that, like, well, whatever you do, you got to deal with them. There's like 5 of those. Because normally we would sit back and say, even going into last year, it was like, you're going to have to deal with Ohio State probably at some point. Can you deal with that? Who is that team this year? Like, you're going to see so-and-so. I think there's 5 or 6 of those. It's Clemson, Penn State, Texas, Georgia, Notre Dame, Bama, Oregon, LSU. It's like those are all the teams that, all right, well, you're probably going to see 1, 2 of those, but we don't know which ones it's going to be and how much better they're going to be than we think. So it could all be pointing to a really fun college football season that looks like one.
Let me ask you a question, though. How much of your hesitation, as you just described Iowa State, as you described Arizona State, as we went through Kansas State, Texas Tech, you didn't reference Utah and add them to the fold.
They should be there, absolutely.
Absolutely put them in because of how good their offensive line is, and I think they've finally solved their quarterback problem from the last couple of years. So just add them to the fold. This is kind of this is not really about Utah. It's really more about the Big 12 as a whole. How hard is it to right now definitively back a Big 12 team, knowing what's likely going to be a very, very challenging league to win? because of how close those teams are across the board.
Super challenging league to win. I mean, I think you're going to have some close games. I mean, you think about the fact that Fafita is back at Arizona. We just mentioned
don't sleep on them.
Arizona State being a legitimate team that can go push for a national championship. The main reason that I wouldn't have just thrown them out is with Kane Udoh coming in at running back, because people would say, well, no Scattaboo. Kane Udoh can get it. You got Sam Levitt at quarterback. We've mentioned Baylor 100 times on this show in the last couple months. They're going to be a really good football team. BYU has quarterback questions, but they're going to be a good football team. And Colorado brought in some decent replacements for what they lost. It won't be the same, but I don't think they fall off the face of the earth. You know, Houston is set up and primed to have a pretty good season, at least much better than maybe what they were a year ago if Connor Wigman can get things righted. We just talked about Iowa State. Kansas ain't gone. I mean, Jalen Daniels has made plays, right? He's been a really good college football player before, and somebody who I think can be dynamic in that league. I've told people about Josh Hoover here on this show at TCU, quarterback that did not throw for 4,000, but did throw for over 3,000 yards last year. And you just brought
39.62 for those of y'all. I don't even know what it is off the top of my head, but like everyone, I know Cole likes to get hung up on the numbers, but we round at quarterback, and if you're close enough to 4,000, you're pretty much a 4,000-yard passer.
Well, and Utah's a team that I should probably be ashamed of myself for not bringing up, because
I love Utah.
With Devin Dampier was overly dynamic last year. You're going to be really good at running back, even though a lot of those faces are new that you're bringing in. I think that's probably a position that you can squeeze in a little bit faster and get on the same page with a little more quickly than you can some others. And that offensive line should be great. I mean, should be great. And you ain't got three wide receivers that could make you more dynamic on the outside. Tobias Merriweather has the ability to be sort of your bigger catch radius guy on the outside down the field. Has been at, I think, Notre Dame and USC. You go get Larry Simmons, who I know the folks in Mississippi thought he was going to be a big-time player there. Ryan Davis, we saw him a little bit at UAB in New Mexico as well. Understands Devin Dampier in that offense. So the offense, like you said, there have been bits and pieces where we've said, oh, this is going to be it, or this is going to be the guy. This could be the year that offense really takes a massive step as far as being a little bit more scary and a little bit more dynamic. And you don't think they're sitting there talking about sending Witt out with the championship, with everything he's done and everything he's been? I can promise you that that's being discussed in certain portions of that facility.
Well, another thing, too, like those that say, oh, well, they're never going to be innovative offensively, that's just not who Coach Whittingham is. Well, not saying it's an apples to apples comparison, but it's an apples to, plums comparison. Pretty close, but not quite the same. Look what Iowa did last year. I mean, no one ever in a million years thought that Iowa would ever field an offense that had any ounce of a heartbeat. It was all ball control, field position, hidden yardage, defense, churn and burn. And they kind of reinvented themselves offensively last year under new offensive coordinator Tim Lester. I'm not saying that Utah's all of a sudden going to turn into the fun and gun. I don't think that's necessarily where they're going to be. But I'm telling you, this Dampier kid is super dynamic. And they have the best offensive line by far in the Big 12. I think you can make a case that it's the best offensive line in the country. I don't know if they'd be number one, but they're in that conversation.
I think I'd have them as the favorite going in. I would have a small group of like 3-4, and they would be in that mix. Yeah.
Okay, so they're up there, and don't think it's because it's going against Big 12 talent. Like, they have legitimate first-round guys on their offensive line, and they're all back, and they're all angry, rightfully. So I think just looking at everything, I think Utah has a chance to maybe kind of sneak into the upper echelon, and while their defense as a result might take a bit of a step back, like Iowa's did last year, if they can score and the defense is 85% of what it once was, that's going to be a problem child. So I don't know if I'm going as far as say they can win the national championship, because frankly, in the Big 12, I just have a hard time really picking a horse, because I don't even know for sure if that horse is going to get to 8 wins because of how tightly knit the entire place is. So, it's a little see it to believe it mode in the Big 12 for me, but I think there's some real contenders in Arizona State in Utah, and I really like Texas Tech as well. Those are kind of the 3 to beat for me going into the league.
Yeah, Texas Tech is just so hard to put a finger on right now. I mean, it's cool to talk about. It's fun to look at. We just have no idea how it's actually going to operate and work. And I've said this on this show 1,000 times. I'll say it again. It doesn't just always work. Everybody thinks you go get talent or you go get experience and all of a sudden it just works. It doesn't. It's been proven time and time again at many different places that just because it looks good on the surface. I had somebody close to the Auburn program text me yesterday. And this goes right in line, and Greg and I have talked about this time and time again. And it was, man, I guess some of the stuff that you've been saying about Mason Murphy versus Xavier Chaplin feels like it's accurate. What do you mean? Mason Murphy just a much better football player. Who was ranked higher in the portal rankings? Xavier Chaplin. Why? 6'7", 348. I'm just saying, like, he's got the NFL frame, so he's got to be a better player, right? He's not a better player. Mason Murphy's a better football player. That's it. He's a better football player. And so everybody covers Auburn peed their pants about Xavier Chaplin the whole offseason. But we actually watched Mason Murphy play, and we told you he's a better football player. Portal rankings didn't say that. Stars didn't say that. Height, size, weight, frame didn't say that. But we did. All right, when we come back, we'll continue this conversation. Teams possibly that could win a national championship. Any we're forgetting? Or are we crazy for throwing that many out? 800-239-9569. Back with more next on Mac and Cube in the morning.
Go inside Jocks 94.5 on Jocks TV. Morning Jocks, Mac and Cube, 3-man front video simulcasts are presented by Bill Smith Buick GMC and Game Day Men's Health. Watch on the Jocks mobile app and YouTube by searching Jocks 94.5 TV.
All right, welcome back in. McElroy and Cubelic in the morning. Appreciate you guys tuning in. Yankees took out the Twins yesterday, 9-1, 64-56 on the season. Twins 56-63. Problem was Toronto took out the Cubs, who are now Blue Jays 70-50. Cubs 67-51. Braves lost to the Mets 13-5. Dodgers go down to the Angels. Doesn't happen often. G-Mac 7-6 last night. Dodgers 68-52.
We haven't beaten the Angels all year, so we're used to it by now. Just a little walk-off in the 10th, no biggie.
Also interesting news last night, the Padres take out the Giants 5-1, which means they are also 68-52, which means there is now a top of the AL West, a tie, at the top of the AL West. Milwaukee over Pittsburgh 14-0 last night. Chris Yellett's 3 for 30, home run, 3 runs driven in. Best record in baseball? Anyone?
Brewers.
Yes.
Ooh.
Milwaukee 75-44. So actually pretty strong hold on best record in baseball right now for the Brewers. All right, back to our teams that can win a national championship. We'll do that in just a moment. Before we do it, Greg, tell our listeners about Shannara Flooring.
Well, Shannara Flooring has done such a great job of building their entire company on foundation of trust and integrity. Really appreciate the experience that you get when you go with Fu and his guys at Shannara Flooring. And right now they have 40,000 square feet of Core-Tec flooring by Shaw in stock. This durable, dependable flooring that will upgrade the experience that you have in your home or in your office. So go and check it out today. And right now, that Core-Tec flooring by Shaw, it's $10 off per box. So you can really stack some savings. 12 months financing is also available as well. So make sure you go and take a peek at it now and take advantage of those savings by going to fuandyou.com. That's fuandyou.com. Make sure you use Shannara Flooring for your next flooring adventure.
All right, I want to go back to these teams that we said can. Once again, emphasis on can, not saying will, not saying favorite to, but just stars aligned can win a national championship. Would it almost be fair to throw Michigan in there based on everything other than quarterback? Is that the one thing that's holding us back from that?
Well, it's a reasonable thing to be held back on.
Well, especially if it's a freshman. I mean, that's
true freshman quarterbacks win national championships in the last 40 years. One with Oklahoma in 1985 and Jamel Holloway. The other with Trevor Lawrence in 2018. And with all due respect to Michigan's personnel at wide receiver, unless they're starting to incorporate the triple option.
Definitely not what Nebraska was in 85 at wideout.
Yeah, exactly. I don't think it's going to look exactly like it did with the wishbone in 85 with Jamel. And I don't think the receivers or the personnel around the quarterback at Michigan is anywhere near what Clemson had in 2018. So I don't see it right now. Perhaps.
No,
different
definitely.
offense.
O-line definitely better, but you're right. The skill is not even it's
Not
not
even close.
it's not in the same county as what Clemson had for that run. All right, so I want to go through some of the teams that may be sort of fringe for some folks, similar to us. You give me the one thing that has to happen, and this is just first thing that comes to your mind. We don't have to stay in the same category like health or individual player schedule, whatever it is. Just first thing that comes to your mind of if that team's going to win a national title, blank has to happen. Oregon.
The youth needs to play above and beyond. They got to stay healthy at wide receiver. They already lost Evan Stewart for what should be most of the regular season, if not all.
Former five. Are you former or always 5-star? I think based
Always.
on portal
They're-
rankings, you're always 5-star. You're right. I'm sorry.
Always.
I shouldn't have said
Come
that.
Clean it up.
Current 5-star Jurion Dickey is also suspended for an unspecified period of time. Dan Lanning announced that yesterday. So wide receiver depth hurting even more
It's a
for
problem.
Oregon at the moment. Yes.
And they do have the freshman, Jacorian Moore. And we saw last year what Ryan Williams can do, what Jeremiah Smith can do. He was the number 1 ranked receiver in the entire class. So, I think that's a position where you can have a huge impact early in your career. But receiver depth's a problem. I think the offensive line, you're better equipped to speak to that. I think they'll be okay there. But I do think there are a couple pieces along the defensive line I have some concerns about. They lost a lot of snaps, college snaps off that defensive line. And while they might be talented, I think they are going to be a little young, and there could be some growing pains.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Alabama, I would go also Dante Moore, but yeah, quarterback I think is probably one of the main things with Oregon that I look at and say, I just don't know. Crimson Tide.
Also, with Oregon's quarterback, though, with all due respect to Bo Nix and Dylan Gabriel beforehand, I'm not discrediting at all what they did. It's a very quarterback-friendly offense.
But they brought a
so
boatload
I-
of experience to that. So
1,000%, and they made it look easy. So maybe it's harder than it looks. But just looking at the offense itself, Will Stein does a really good job of making that guy comfortable. He will not allow Dante Moore to bite off more than he can chew.
Yeah.
I also love the addition of Mekhi Hughes at running back. So they're going to take some
He's
of
a
the
hammer.
pressure off with the traditional run game. They're going to be really good running the football.
Well, and I've talked about Isaiah World at tackle. I think he actually may be better than what they had a year ago, and they had 2 tackles drafted last year. I think they may have upgraded at 1 tackle spot. So, because I think the tackles they had last year were slightly flawed, but they did show up at times. They could have upgraded at one of those spots, and that would be huge for them. All right, Alabama. Blank has to happen if the Crimson Tide's going to win a national championship. One thing.
Got to stay healthy on defense. I think that's the key.
Specifically down
I
the
think-
middle.
Yeah, I think, well, I don't know. I'm pretty optimistic with what I saw from the defensive tackles last week. You know, not to say that it's like, I mean,
There's not
Quinn
7 of
Williams
them.
and no, exactly. Like compared to the 2016 version of Bama, they're not as deep. But I do think they have a chance to be pretty disruptive up front, which is something that I wasn't sure about. But I think at linebacker, Deontay Lawson's got to be out there, and he's got to be playing well. I think at other spots at linebacker, Jefferson's got to play well. Greenhill's got to play well. Like, I think they have to be good up the middle of the defense, sound against the run. I think those are the tickets. If they can stay healthy in the front 7 defensively, I really like their chances of having one heck of a defense across the board. I still think, worst case, they're a top 20 unit. But this group could, I think, be a top 5 unit if they stay healthy throughout the course of the season.
Damian, one thing has to happen for Alabama to win a national title. What would it be?
I say they found their offensive identity. Can they actually put teams away in the run game when they have leads and they can sit on them? I think if they can continue almost in that joyless murder ball situation.
Bring
where
that back a little bit?
Yeah, bring it back a little bit, and I think that's a recipe for a national championship.
John, where would you go with Alabama? One thing to win a national championship has to happen.
Consistency. They showed last year
It's
that
actually
they
a really
can,
good one. Yeah.
they could knock off the best teams out there, but and hate to bring up Vanderbilt, but yes, they were caught off guard. But there were multiple games where they couldn't.
Better than bringing up
play their A game.
statues because that's boring. But you weren't here for that yesterday.
Sorry. Yeah, well, nothing like says boring like a good solid statue. But no, Alabama had been the model of consistency for the most part under Nick Saban, and in just a few months they got away from it.
Yeah.
Okay, fine. So you got a substitute teacher and someone else come. Okay, fine, I get that. But now it's time to get back down to business. Can you actually do that? And if so, you can be hoisting the trophy at the end of the year.
Okay. I'm just going to go Ty Simpson, and he's got to be good, not great. He doesn't have to be elite. He doesn't have to be Johnny Manziel, but it also goes along with what John said. Just be good consistently. Understand situational football. Be aware of what the game is, where the game is, who's around you, what could potentially happen. If Ty Simpson is that, then I think Alabama can win a national championship. I think that's what it'll take, because I think the pieces around him, you could go from having an elite group of receivers. I think that run game will be a little bit stronger more consistently. I think you can offset him in different ways in different times. But I'm also with Greg on that defense. I think that's big. I think up the middle, I don't think there's a ton of D tackles. And we know there's not a lot of inside linebackers. That part's got to stay healthy. And you've talked about it a lot, Greg. There are certain parts of the secondary that once they were dinged up last year, it wasn't the same. It was different. So the health of that part also going to be critical as well.
And one thing that I don't think can be acknowledged enough were the challenges they had last year with guys essentially being forced to play at less than 100% because of that lack of depth. Like, if you really look at, Keon Sabb played the entire Tennessee game with a broken foot.
Yeah.
And had pain in the 3 or 4 games leading up to that because he had, some issues with that foot. And it finally gave in Tennessee, and man, that kid will forever be one of my favorites because of how tough he was in playing through that injury. But Damani Jackson had a hip pointer after South Carolina, was never at 100%, could barely practice. Was so sore on Sundays, he could barely do anything Monday, Tuesday, and by the time he got back to it, Wednesday, Thursday, and yet, remember, this is year one of a new defense. He's year one at Bama to begin with. So last year, what Kane Womack did was truly amazing, because not only did they have a really, really good defense, but most of the guys that were out there contributing on Saturdays couldn't even practice in the week leading up because of how banged up they were. So I think making sure you have that practice time and making sure you're at as close to 100% as you can be, no one's going to be 100% throughout the season, is of vital importance. So
makes sense.
I just think it's huge.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, one more before we go to break, LSU, and we'll continue this practice on the other side. What's the one thing, Greg, that has to happen for LSU to win a national championship?
Offensive line cannot be a liability.
Yep. I'll counter that, because that would probably be my go-to, but I'll switch my answer up just for you. The decision-making process to actually hand off the football. That has to be something that is ingrained in them somewhere deep down in that bag of tricks. Just like maybe you might have to, dig around in the bottom of it, trying to feel your way through it, but there's got to be a called handoff in there somewhere. Just give it to a different player in the backfield. I don't care if you put a backup guard back there. Just hand the ball off on occasion. At some point in time, don't allow your edge rushers to just tee off on your guys. Even though you're also right about the offensive line. Anybody want to add anything different on LSU?
I was going to say defense.
There's a ton. Whitweek's got to stay healthy. Harold Perkins needs to be more than effective. Like, he's got to be a guy. The secondary's got to come together. But if it's the one thing for me,
run.
Greg's right. It's the offensive line not being a liability, and just when you go up 14 in the third quarter, give the ball to another player, not through the air. That'd be the one thing for me. If that happens, maybe LSU can win a national title. All right, we'll be back with more of one thing teams have to do to win a national championship in 2025. First, I'll tell you about Game Day Men's Health. There's one thing you can do right now to feel better. Let's go to GameDayMen'sHealth.com. Sign up for the free consultation. You'll go in, you get a free PSA test, you get a free testosterone test, find out where your baseline health is. And then the fine folks at Game Day Men's Health are going to say, these are the things that we can do to make you feel better. We can help you get more energy. We can help you sleep better. We can help you not feel on edge. We can help you lose weight. There's multiple programs for that. You can save 10% on any of those programs by mentioning Mac and Cube when you walk in the front door of Game Day Men's Health. Holistic approach to health and wellness, minimal upfront costs from the programs that they offer. Book a free consultation now at GameDayMen'sHealth.com. More on teams winning national championships this year and how next on Mac and Cube in the morning.
The capital of the sports talk nation. This is Jocks 94.5 and JocksFM.com. Birmingham.
Welcome back in. McElroy and Cubelic in the morning. Talking teams that can. And I appreciate the Context Warriors coming out on Twitter this morning as I asked the question, how many teams can win a national championship in college football this season? A lot of people going with one. Well, one. Well, the way I see it, just one. I get it.
Actually,
Congrats
they're all wrong. 135 can win.
There you go.
If you want to go like that route, if you really wanted to be, you should have said how many will win. Well, that point's one.
Dogmatic said only one can win it.
No.
Actually, you're right, John.
No. 135 can.
You context warriors are wrong.
Yeah.
What was that, G-Mac?
What about champions of life?
Brick by brick.
I mean, there's still only one of those.
Even if they don't win the championship, they can be a champion at life. So
Especially
there's
if they
always
have a 5-star
champions.
heart.
Wow. You are on one today. You're going back to Statueville.
What?
The Statueville
Boring
yesterday.
radio? I would never.
You're in a hole about.
I would never go back to boring radio. I would never do that. Never think of doing such a thing. Why teams can win a national championship. One thing that needs to happen, Miami. One thing that has to happen for that team to win a national championship.
The receivers have to play mature beyond their years. The talent is not in question.
No.
With Miami's wide receivers. They have talent. They've recruited well at that position. But the receivers, and we'll find out week 1 because you know who's coming to town, and that's Notre Dame, and we know what they play defensively. Press man, come and get it. We're going to find out all we need to know about those wideouts week 1. If the receivers are legit and they can beat press coverage and they can create big plays, I think Miami has everything that you could possibly want to make a run. I think this is, of all the long shots to go win this thing, they might be my favorite. I mean, now they're a long shot. I don't even know what their odds are to go win the Natty. But they have an experienced quarterback that I think you're getting on sale as far as public perception. And everyone thinks that he was the problem last year. I strongly disagree with that. I think you have arguably the best offensive and defensive line in the entire ACC, which is a pretty dang good place to start. And you have revamped what you are defensively by bringing in Corey Heatherman. And Corey Heatherman is of the Minnesota tree, where they don't do anything that they don't need to do. He lets his players play. And as a result, they're not going to be trying to blitz you to death and guess right like they did the last couple of years with Lance Guidry. And while playing against Lance Guidry is a pain because you got to be prepared for zero coverage, all-out blitz on every single snap, that's a pain, it's also unsound. And I think this group is going to be far more sound and will allow their talent to kind of come to the forefront, which could be kind of a dangerous proposition for a lot of the teams they face. So Miami, I think, is that team that right now you can get a long shot national title championship odds with. I'd roll the dice there.
All right. I think my question is actually my answer is actually going to include yours, and I'm interested to get your thoughts on where I go, because I think you'll know exactly what I mean. Because this is going to sound super surface level and extremely common sense, but I believe with this team it's more applicable. What would you say if I just told you, it's almost embarrassing to say, they just need to be better in game. Like, just understand situational football. Like, and part of it is what you said, be less risk adverse when you have things under control or things are in your corner. But just be better in game. Like you said, Greg, the talent is there. The coaching acumen is there. Now you switch one side of the ball, but I just think it's, whether it's situational awareness, whether it's not making mistakes in big moments, they just need to be better in games.
That's not embarrassing. I thought you were going to say like they need to be better in special teams or something. That would have been embarrassing.
For this show, it would have been. Yes. Tomorrow we rank the top 25 special team units in the country.
Just kickers and punters, not units.
We got to go snappers too. We got to include them. McElroy Award, something that we're right on top of here on this show. But is it crazy for me to say that about Miami?
No, I think it's a little low-hanging fruit, but I understand it. You know what I mean? It's fair. I think Mario gets a bit of a bad rap for, quote, game management or, quote, game mismanagement. I think it's not
Mario's fault that you fumbled the football. I mean, against Georgia Tech a couple of years ago. I mean,
it's not.
Now you take a knee maybe, but your job is to carry the football, specifically in short yardage situations. I don't put all that on him. And
No.
you had a risk taker at quarterback last year. He was really good at it. He was maybe the best in college football at it last year, but same time, I think that opens the door for other guys on the team when you allow things like that to happen to think they can play that way. And maybe that's part of the problem is you allow certain players to play certain ways because they have the ability to, but not everybody should think that they can do that and they can operate that way. I don't know the exact verbiage to use for it. I think you understand where I'm going with it, but I think it's more collective than just a Mario call. That's part of it, but that's not even where the majority of the emphasis was. I just think they need to have better understanding of where they are in certain moments in game, and they've got the talent to win a national championship. Some of that might just be maturity. Some of that might just be understanding. I don't know exactly what it is or how to put my finger on it, but that's where I would go with Miami as far as can they go win a national championship, or the one thing that would have to happen if they were going to go do that. All right, continuing this trend, we brought up Arizona State a little bit earlier. You said you wanted to, but you couldn't. Is it explosive capability somewhere? Is it players on defense? Is it lack of takeover guys? Like what would be the one thing that would allow you to flip your opinion or your pick on Arizona State to say they can go win a national championship?
The emergence of a receiver beyond Jordan Tyson would be helpful. We know what he is. Right, he's a great player and can be super dynamic. And while his absence was not a major hindrance against Texas, maybe he would have been the difference. But having other guys that can step up there is huge. I'm not worried about running back. I think they're deeper at that position. I think rushing the passer was a problem last year. Being more effective with their pass rush would be huge. I think number one though is probably keep Sam Leavitt healthy. I mean, he's a bit of a risk taker. He's got some Manziel qualities. He reminds me, frankly, a lot of Zach Wilson when he was at BYU. Like, he's going to do some things that are amazing. But he's also a guy that, because of how much he tries to create, can at times put himself in harm's way. So him staying healthy is massive, but I also think, there's some other areas around him that would be huge.
Quickly, where would you go with Florida? Is it as easy as just saying DJ has to be in games? Yes. DJ availability, that easy? And then if that's the case, that paves the road for everything else to sort of work itself out. Secondary could be one you'd throw in there, but he's just plain and simple because, like we've said before, he elevates guys around him. He has to be in games at the end of the day.
I think him being healthy is massive. That's number one. We know that in games he finished last year, he was 6-0. That's been a long documented conversation. I think for Florida, the biggest thing, man, is they got to start fast, dude. And I'm not talking about weeks 1 and 2. I think they'll handle their business there. But week 3 on the road at LSU, this team did not round into form until the end of October. That's not good enough.
Yeah.
With if they're going to make a run. And last year they were young, relatively speaking. They did have a lot of starts back, but it was a relatively young team. They need to pick up where they left off at the end of last year. If they can do that and get off to a hot start and create some momentum, then that's when hope becomes reality. And reality, I think, with that group would go a long way in creating some positivity.
No, I think you're right. All right, we'll continue talking teams that can win a national championship, the reasons why, next, right here on Jocks.
Go inside Jocks 94.5 on Jocks TV. Morning Jocks, Mac and Cube, three-man front video simulcasts are presented by Bill Smith Buick GMC and Game Day Men's Health. Watch on the Jocks mobile app and YouTube by searching Jocks 94.5 TV.
Welcome back in, McElroy and Cubelic in the morning. 7:53 Wednesday, August 13th, right here on Jocks 94.5. We mentioned a little bit earlier, Oregon 5-star wide receiver Jurion Dickey suspended for an unspecified period of time. Fresno State has announced E.J. Warner will start at quarterback in their opener. He had 3,028 passing yards, 18 touchdowns, 11 picks 2 years ago at Temple, 2,710 yards, 17 and 13 at Rice last year, so at his third program. He's obviously the son of Super Bowl quarterback, champion winning quarterback Kurt Warner. Do you know who Fresno State's head coach is, Craig?
Matt Entz.
Yep. People made fun of that move a couple of years ago, remember? Like, you're leaving North Dakota State to go to USC to be like the associate linebackers coach? What? Well, now he's got a head job at Fresno. So I feel like that springboard has been pretty good for him. Made a pretty good decision there. And then there's some portal news, which is completely odd right now. UCLA has signed Tulsa offensive lineman Ty Marks. Baylor has signed SMU transfer defensive lineman Braylon Jackson. Are these guys playing? Like week 1? They're going to play?
Hit the ground running.
Hey, welcome in, kid. We kick off in 13 days. Get your pads. By the way, we run a 3-4. Like, what? Hey, can you pull? Okay, good. Get in there, kid.
Hit that guy.
Hope your pass pro's ready. Here's your helmet. All right. I mean, God,
you don't have a
decal
decal yet, though. You hadn't earned it yet.
Earned it. Just stickers. It just feels like a late arrival for somebody who could potentially help your football team. I don't know. Maybe I'm old school here.
I don't think you're old school. I just think it's all knowing how important it is to create cohesiveness and continuity, how hard that is to create, to just do it in 14 days to me feels wild. But crazier things have happened, and in the modern era, these kids are more adaptable than they once were. So maybe it'll work, but it sounds like a depth play.
It's probably something that's going to play into is having capable bodies there if somebody were to go down. There are capable bodies at all 3 locations of your CBD store. If you need answers for weight loss, if you need answers for arthritis, anxiety, they've got them on the shelves at the largest brick-and-mortar CBD retailer in the world, first company to have USDA-certified organic oil supplements. They've got that stamp seal on those products for you or your pet. Gut health, skincare. They can help you out with that at your CBD store. Taking the edge off in the evening, feeling better throughout the course of the day, better focused throughout the course of the day. Products to help you with all of that. Highway 280 by Bailey Brothers, 150 by the Cajun Cleaver, Trussell just off 459, your CBD store where good health hits home. Yes, they are still open, regardless of what you may have seen on the news about other places. Your CBD store is open at all 3 locations. When we come back, I have a question for Bill Connolly. He always gives us these percentage of production returning for all these college football teams. How does he factor in the transfers? Because they weren't productive at that place last year. So you just get that 2,000 yards receiving on your list of production? He's going to tell us how it works next, right here on McElroy and Cubelic in the morning on Jocks.
This is McElroy and Cubelic in the morning.